Number 5 is one of the most important, and out of this whole entire list, the number one thing you have to do with your camper van build. G'day legends, I just spent the last 2.5 years trying to build my dream home on wheels to travel and explore this incredible country I call home, Australia. There's 6 words that you will never hear come out of my mouth about that vehicle right behind me. I didn't make one mistake. Any van lifer knows you make an absolute shit ton of mistakes when converting your van, because you build the van at home, everything works perfectly at home, you get out in the road and it all turns to shit. So on today's video, I want to explain to you the 7 mistakes that I wish that I never made in this van. Number 5 and number 7, doesn't matter what van you drive, this will be very important for you. Number 1 being the overall size of my vehicle. Now this is a 2016 Fiat Ducato, however the Italians say it. And the specifications are L2, H2 out of a possible 3. And that is length 2, height 2. Now the reason I chose this particular van is I'm 6'1" and I can stand up in my van. So the height is absolutely perfect. The east to west orientation of my bed is perfect. I can sleep east to west. But it's the length that would concern me. I love the size of this vehicle for 2 main reasons. When I'm going and miss a turn, I can chuck a U-banger and it's very simple to turn around. Secondly, I can park in Coles and Woolies. But I've also realised that car park doesn't really matter. I'm generally outside of a city. And I park out whoop whoop and walk in. It doesn't bother me. So that fact, actually now I've used it, has sort of gone away. Chucking a U-turn, okay, it might be a 3-point turn or a 5-point turn. It's only every now and then. So those 2 facts don't bother me. But the last one is an unknown, it is the fuel economy. I chose this particular vehicle because of the bed orientation, the size, and also the fuel economy. Having that extra space, it's 550 millimeters extra you get, means more crap to bring. The heavier the vehicle, you'd add up with more weight in the vehicle, resulting in poorer fuel economy. But just the idea of having that bigger permanent bed, more storage in the back, a permanent 2 chairs and a table set up in the same size kitchen really appeals to me. Obviously you always want what you haven't got, so having a bigger vehicle I might have more problems. Rather than being 7 issues, it might be 9 issues that I've got. So far I absolutely love this size, but I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Remembering, I travel and work full-time in Australia, so my needs might be a little different from you guys. I see so many people with a bigger van, so let me know in the comments below if you have a bigger van and do you absolutely love it and why. Number 2 goes hand in hand with the overall size of the vehicle, because bigger vehicle, I wouldn't have this issue. But I guarantee you, I wouldn't have this issue, but another issue would arise with a bigger vehicle. But this is the overall size of my kitchen, and that rips me apart to say that, because I adore the size and look of my kitchen. When people walk into this van, they always mention how beautiful the kitchen is. And when you're cooking, it is fantastic. So much room for activities. But I think to myself, could I maximize space further down the vehicle? Who knows? Bigger van, bigger problems. But I had 2 non-negotiables in my kitchen, which made it this size. A full-size oven setup and a 130-litre Bushman fridge. Because I want to survive for about 10 to 12 days remotely. Water, electricity, and food. So they were 2 non-negotiables for me. Add on the gas on the outside here, full-size sink. There now, we are at 1.8 meters just for those 4 things. Then add a little bit more space, we're getting close to 2 meters for the overall size of my kitchen. When you're in here, it is Mickey Mouse, absolutely perfect. But when you're in the back, it's a little bit tighter. It doesn't bother me, but sometimes you just want to lounge out and sort of be more homely. That's where I get back onto the bigger van, keeping the size of this kitchen and having a bit more comfortable size for zonking out at night and doing absolutely diddly squat. Number 3 and number 4, we're talking all about the electronics inside of this camper van. Now roll on 2.5 years ago when I first purchased this van, I had a dream to build a luxury camper van with really high-end electronics. Tick and tick. But number 4 is a personal pet peeve of mine because it goes against so much of my character. But right now it's about number 3. That is the overall size of this unit. Not amperage, I'm talking about physical size. My inverter charger is the size and weight of a bloody small baby. It is enormous. Yes, I can dial it in to be meticulous to exactly what I need. It is perfect, the Victron unit, but is it the perfect system? For me, it is just a little bit too big. I think about what I could do with that extra size and space inside of that van. As I said, space is at a premium. You buy a Red Arc, MPPT and DC to DC in a small encapsulated unit, and it does exactly the same thing. And once it's set up, it's done and dusted. Yes, I agree, the Victron is premium of premium, and I absolutely love their product, and there's nothing wrong with their product. It is just the overall size of this system. Number 4 is the biggest personal mistake, and probably one thing I can look back at in this campervan build and actually be annoyed at myself. And that is future-proofing ourselves. This directly correlates to the electrical system, but mainly correlates to my life, because I'm a huge advocate on do it right the first time. Whether it's campervan builds, travel, sport, just general life, put the time and energy to doing it right the first time. And I didn't. I want to speak about this more on the budget setup, but I've literally gone outside and pissed away money. We live in an electronically driven world. We go camping to escape the normality of life, but we bring our laptops, Starlink, computers, TVs, whatever it may be, and we need to charge them. It's very rare that we put electronics at home and just leave them there. We bring more crap along with us. So what I wish I had done from the first initial part of my build is future-proof myself for future upgrades. This happened last week. I drove home and got new solar panels, new cabling, new MPPT because I didn't do it right the first time. I bought a 30 amp MPPT, ran smaller cables to run to 2 solar panels. It worked for the setup that I wanted. But then I bring a few more extra gear, or it's a bit more cloudy in the winter and I want that extra solar panel. So now a new MPPT to the 50 amp, bigger wiring to support that upgrade, and also new solar panels. New solar panels don't bother me. It's everything else around it that bothers me, because I should have done it right the first time, because you can always get a bigger system and run smaller gear on it and future-proof yourself. That is my biggest personal mistake, and probably the number one thing that I'm most angry about in this build. Just future-proof yourself, because generally the upgrade from 30 amp to 50 amp in your MPPT or your DC to DC or your fuse blocks aren't that much. Just go the extra hog and future-proof yourself, baby. If you listen to one thing that I say today, let it be this, because I made this mistake when converting my van, and right now I'm paying for it. Maximize your real estate on the roof with solar panels. When you first build a camper van, the planning stage, you go through what each thing draws per hour in amperage, put it over a 24-hour period, over a 7-day week. Right, on a spreadsheet, it looks perfect. It's simple. Okay, I need 360 watts. That's what I worked out to be. Over a 7-day period, throw in 3 cloudy days, or a day just like today. It's beautiful, it's warm, but I'm only harvesting about 4 amps out of my solar panels right now. It is just enough to break even. Roll around night time, I start losing about 15-20% of my battery capacity. Then tomorrow it's cloudy again. I don't harvest any energy, I'm just breaking even. Simply put, just maximize the real estate on your roof. Number 6 is a debate that I would love to hear your opinion on, especially if you're a long-term van lifer, and that is gas versus electric. Now, I've done some boy math to try and get what's in my head on paper so I can explain it to you the best I possibly can. Just so you understand, I run my hot water system off gas. This is a Thetford 4-burner hob, grill and oven, and I want to start off by saying what I've got set up and the products I'm using, there is nothing wrong with it. I'm talking about if I was to build a van again, would I change? The answer is I don't actually know. I would definitely do more research and consideration into the electric. What I want to go through and talk about with this setup is practicality, storage, and budget or costings. Practicality, nothing really changes. The oven setup is exactly the same size. Whether you're using the hot water system, it's the same size. It doesn't really matter. So that can be scraped out. Now, storage. That box is absolutely massive. It goes into my only 600 by 600 cabinet internally, allowing so much storage that I have to find elsewhere. And especially if it's a bigger size, I just haven't got the cabinets because the other side, they're 400 wide. So that changes things completely. The storage becomes a bit of an issue. Costing inside that box was $600. That's a lot of money, just for a box. I installed it myself, so I saved the installation costs, but additionally to that, we had to hardwire and run some gas. Therefore, that cost me $640 to run 2 gas lines, one to the oven and one obviously to the hot water system. Then the last one is the actual gas bottle itself. I had to pay $70 to get a swap and go gas bottle up front, and then from there on, I believe it's about $35 every time. At the moment, I'm trying to get more efficient using the oven. I am getting about a month out of a gas bottle, which I think is pretty bloody good. So $35 a month is my ongoing cost. That's fine. Then if we look at going into full electric, you have to buy batteries anyway. I just had a look at current pricing for the batteries I've got, just over $2,500. If I upgraded and then used my fact number 5 of maxing out my solar, you're not paying that much more, because the total cost of putting in a gas system is $1,309. The upgrade from the batteries that I've got to the batteries I would need is nowhere near that. But here comes the catch. If you have a complete blackout, I can still use my gas cooktop. If I'm not harvesting enough solar or not getting enough into my batteries, I can still use my cooktop. I just need a tiny bit of ignition to start the gas and I'm good. If I can't, I get a cigarette lighter and light it up and it goes. So safety protocols, it's probably safer to go gas long term. But the other side of safety, it's pretty dangerous to have gas inside of your van if things start to leak. So, as you can tell, I'm sitting pretty hard on the fence because I don't know. I haven't used induction cooktop. I operate with a single induction cooktop to try and use energy when I've got beautiful bright days. But I'm cooking that's using about 175 amps at a time. So if I'm doing something like a curry and sitting there and letting it simmer for 20 minutes, I think it's pretty efficient to run gas. This is where I want to know your setup. Because for me, I'm sitting hard on that fence. Number 7, and lastly, I can tell you this sits right up the arse of my number 1 mistake that I made with not maximizing the real estate on my roof with solar panels. This is going to work perfectly into the last video of this series on budgeting tips on how to save a shit ton of money when converting your van. Because this idiot right here, I fell head over heels for this mistake. Do not rush and buy a heap of shit at the beginning planning stage of your van, because this bloke here did. I probably spent $20,000 in a week when I first designed and planned this van, and it was all my non-negotiables: the oven, electrical setup, the fridge, and it all got delivered. Did I feel good? Oh yeah, the dopamine hit was insane. But just build certain sections, because you know what? A lot of that shit that I bought when I first designed the van, it's sitting in the shed doing absolutely nothing. If I had my time again, I would slow the process down and allocate certain sections at a time. Build it, finish it, go out and use it. Build it, finish it, go out and use it. Come back, order more gear. Build it, finish it, go out and use it. So I want to hear from you. What is the biggest mistake that you made when converting your van, and how much of an idiot were you? Because they're the best bonfire stories. When I first built my van, I done this. You're an idiot. Yep, I am. But the main thing is, we tackled building these vans ourselves, and that is the most rewarding part, to travel this incredible country, Australia. And I hopefully will see you around somewhere and we can have a bonfire and chat about all the mistakes we made checking out each other's van. But for now, I'm going to watch the sunset, listen to the birds, watch the kookaburras get the worms out of the grass, and I'll see you somewhere in this beautiful world. Ciao.